This is the grand finale of my Tidy Tuesdays series. If you have missed the first 3 videos, I encourage you to watch those. And as for today's video, you gotta stick around till the end because that is when I'm going to open up the time capsule of my childhood treasures. Okay, it's confession time. Guys, I have the hardest time getting rid of things that are sentimental. That is a huge challenge to me when it comes to decluttering. And the problem is that for me, everything's sentimental. Like I attach connections to all of these items and it's hard for me to get rid of them. And I'm really working on that. I also have a weakness for things that are just like quirky and cool and unique and irreplaceable. I'm gonna show you some really ridiculous things that are examples of this. These are pens from The Office, the American TV show, The Office. And they're cheap, low quality pens that I bought back, I think in the final season of The Office. So the pens say Dunder Mifflin at the top and have a picture of Dwight Schrute. And then when you click on the button on the top, it rotates the pen and shows you different quotable quotes from the show, like assistant to the regional manager. The Schrutes produce very thirsty babies. If you can fool them into thinking you really care, you can get them to do anything for you. 2 paintball lessons with someone as experienced as I am is worth easily $2 grand. Well, guess what? These pens, I've kept them for so long and I'm not sure I ever really used them to write with. Now they're so dried up that they don't even work. These are going in the trash. And then there's this pencil that I've never sharpened or used, and it says, I survived Lemony Snicket. In case you don't know who Lemony Snicket is, he is the brilliant author of the children's book series, The Series of Unfortunate Events. And the final book, volume 13, the title of it was The End. When this book came out, my boys were 7 and 9 or something. And we went to the mall, to the bookstore. We got to meet Daniel Handler, that's the actual name of Lemony Snicket. That's his pseudonym. He autographed the book and he talked to the boys and we got these souvenir pencils. Well, I haven't used the pencils. They're just sitting up there. I mean, this was a long time ago. So I'm keeping the book, but I need to just sharpen and use these stupid pencils instead of keeping them like they're some treasured possession. And here's another example of something weird that I decide I'm gonna hold on to and then I just gotta talk myself out of it. I've got this thing. So this thing is a broken piece of pottery, somewhat old pottery from Britain. But I love that it has this pretty blue and white design. But it looks like, oh my goodness, I thought it was a church, but now I'm looking at it closer. I think this might be like a little village and there's a person and that might even be a maypole in the illustration. Anyway, I was at a certain unnamed relative's house in Britain at a certain undisclosed location. And in their home, there was broken bits of pottery. And I thought this was a cool piece and I picked it up. What am I going to do with this dirty piece of old pottery? This is going in the trash too. But back to things that have emotional connections. I had a big problem with collecting T-shirts over the years and then not being able to get rid of those shirts. I'm like, oh, this is from the time that I did yada, yada, yada. And so I had this big piece of furniture full of all of these T-shirts and sweatshirts, and I was never wearing them. They were just sitting there. So this is actually one of the more brilliant decluttering ideas I've ever had. So I'm going to share it with you, my one little word of wisdom. This is a Shutterfly book. So, you know, you do these photo books with your digital photos. Well, one day I got a free book coupon where I could do an 8x8 book for free. So what I did is I took all the T-shirts and sweatshirts that had sentimental connection to me that I didn't want to get rid of, but I was not wearing, and I took pictures of all of them. And I put them in this book. just so that I could say, okay, now I have a picture of when my family of 17 people went on a canoe trip in the Boundary Waters in Canada. And when I went through my naked mole rat phase, Morrissey t-shirts and the Smiths t-shirts, and my Napoleon Dynamite Vote for Pedro t-shirt, my K-Rock Kevin and Bean t-shirt, my Disney's Kim Possible t-shirt. So, oh, and then this is Weston and Trent's little handprints on a t-shirt that they gave Ian for Father's Day. And my maternity t-shirt that was magenta and had an otter pattern on it. And it said, "Love, One, and Otter." And also my sweatshirts and t-shirts from Oxford, Cambridge, and Wales. So a big, huge box full of t-shirts and sweatshirts is now replaced by a little book. So before I show you the things that I've decluttered since the last video, let's talk about the Less Is Now Minimalists documentary that was the inspiration to these series, and I'm going to share a final quote with you from the documentary that I really enjoyed. So one of the creators of the show, one of the minimalists, Josh Milburn, tells the story of going to his mother's home after she passed away. In his mother's home, it was just full of all this stuff. What he ended up doing is keeping just a handful of treasured items. And in telling that story, he shared this quote: "By having fewer sentimental items, we are able to enjoy them much more." That is so true. I've learned this time and time again in my own life. And if you watched my video from week 2 where I talked about family priorities and my family room, I definitely talk about that then. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of the 2 sweaters. My mother, when she was a teenager, was a model, and she really loved fashion and makeup and things like that. And by the time she had me, her modeling days were long over and her fancy wardrobe and all that stuff was long, long gone. But she held on to a couple sweaters for decades. And one of those sweaters was from the 50s. And the reason I know it was from the 50s is because in 1980, when I was a teenager and went to a 50s dance, I had to dress up in 50s style clothes, and she gave me that sweater to wear. She said, "This is from the 50s." So I was already 30 years old at that point. Here is a photo of me wearing that sweater to the dance. I got that sweater from my mom, and I've held on to it all these years. So here is a current picture of me wearing that sweater. Here's the story of the second sweater. My mother had a red cowl neck sweater from probably the early 70s. And this very old picture of my mother is actually a picture that's very dear to my heart. When she passed away and I was pulling together all of the photos for her memorial, I remember finding this picture and just thinking, this is probably one of my very most favorite pictures of her. The picture quality is terrible. Thank you, 1970s snapshots. But I just love the expression on her face and her posing with those flowers. And so that sweater, that red cowl neck knit sweater that she had in that picture kind of has a special place in my heart. So I also have that sweater still. And this is a picture of me last week wearing the sweater and posing in a silly way with some flowers. So I'll be honest, I've had these 2 sweaters forever. They've been stuffed in a closet, cupboard, and I have not been wearing them. But I decided to take as inspiration this quote from Josh Milburn and focus on getting rid of all the huge collection of sweaters I have, getting rid of the ones I don't really wear, don't really fit, or don't really love. And in my newer, smaller collection of sweaters, I'm going to have these 2 sweaters from my mother, and I am going to wear them as a way to remember her and honor her. So I started this 30-day minimalism challenge of decluttering every day, January 1st. Now the month is over. I've had my 30 days of decluttering, and I've shared with you my first 3 weeks of items I got rid of. Now I'm going to recap the items that I decluttered since the last video, with day 30 being that very special surprise of my childhood time capsule. Day 20 was 20 items from my makeup drawer. Day 21 was an ill-fitting otter mask, old lunch boxes, and an old handbag from years ago that I still had for some reason, and lots of stuff that was still inside it for some reason. Day 22 included some more copies of one of my mom's books, as well as several other books I pared down from our bookshelves. Day 23, I got rid of my current handbag and a bunch of trash from inside it. And yes, here is a photo of my new handbag, which is identical. Because it is so functional and practical, I'm sticking with what works. Day 24 was an assortment of things, from old books and homework assignments to refugee supplies, a new never-worn necklace, an ancient mini cassette player, and a collectible NASCAR car in its display case. Day 25, assorted trash from my bedroom closet, with the one interesting item being a shell I brought back from a beach in Normandy, France. Day 26, Ian and I decluttered our sock and t-shirt drawers. This was most of the socks and an old pair of shoes. Day 27 was the rest of the socks and a lovely blue suit that Weston has outgrown. And yes, some lovely British socks were decluttered and given to Weston. Also that day, I did my KonMari magic and tidied the remaining t-shirts in their drawers. Day 28 was a huge jewelry purge of over 35 items. Day 29 was a declutter of CDs and DVDs and the CD-DVD player. Day 31 was a bonus day, a bunch more clothing items, including the magenta top I wore in the first 3 decluttering videos. And here is day 30, the bin of childhood memories. What I have here is a very heavy, big blue tote that has my childhood treasures in it. I do not know what is in this thing. It was kept at my parents' house for decades, and then at some point they gave it to me and I moved it from one house to another house to another house. And it's gotten here to this downsized house I'm in now. So now we're going to open up this 50-year-old time capsule and see what weird stuff or wonderful stuff I have saved from my childhood. Okay, here's a blue box. Oh, wow. I have 2 bins here. One is recycling, the other is rubbish, and then anything that I'm keeping, I'll put in another stack here and find something for it to go in. This is my contractor badge from when I worked at Hewlett-Packard on a student project in 1986. I've kept every weird thing. This box is full of letters. Wow. Yeah, I think that I am going to eventually recycle all of these or put them in the trash, but there are a few of them that I think I'm gonna send a Facebook message to people and say, oh, look at this letter you sent me in 1987, and maybe send them a photo of it just for laughs. So this looks like a gift certificate for a date, a dinner date, issued to Dara Rabe, that's my maiden name. Good for one dinner with Ralph Hibbs. It's a very interesting looking handwritten gift certificate. So this is from 1987, right around my birthday. The most fascinating thing about this is I have no idea who Ralph Hibbs is. So Ralph Hibbs, if you ever see this, comment below and tell me how I knew you. This is a handwritten note from my father. And it's really funny because he has misspelled on purpose almost every word in this letter. And then a little fun thing that's in here is he talks about how he went fishing all night. He was a big fisherman, loved to fish. And it says he only got 18 smelt. Do you know what smelt are? Very small fish. I'll see if I can find a picture and insert it in the video here. I attended the University of Utah for 3 whole months. Here's my student ID. Don't think I need that anymore. While I worked at Nestle Foods, I was an exhibitor at some trade show, and I also have that badge here, my little laminated badge. So all those things are getting tossed, but there's a very sweet letter from my mother from 1985, which I will keep. And this is kind of priceless, so I'm keeping this. This is a recipe I wrote when I was a very little girl, and it's a recipe. This is the first recipe I ever wrote down, and it is how to make diet lemonade. I think my mom was on a diet, so I certainly wasn't. I was just a tiny girl. But it says number 1, get a glass. Number 2, fill the glass with water. Number 3, 1 teaspoon Weight Watchers sugar. Number 4, 1 tablespoon lemon juice. Number 5, stir and drink. It only has 4 calories. See, my future as a marketer in the food industry started at a very young age. Oh, okay, this looks serious. This orange box says private. Don't look, no, go away, keep out, no peeking. So there was some very serious stuff kept in this. Oh, I see what this is. Oh my goodness, y'all. This is priceless. This is my spy kit. I had this when I lived in the first house I lived in, and I only lived there till I was 8. So this is from when I was like 7 or 8 years old. I obviously was watching detective and PI shows on TV. This is a little Rolodex, and the letters, it has the little alphabetical letters here, and then I've written things on each. A is for alibis, B is for burglaries, C is for clues, of course. Oh, and then I've like filed little slips of paper in it with clues. D is for detectives. E, that's for emergencies. F is for fights. So yeah, this is adorable, and I might keep this for a second. I don't promise that I'm gonna completely keep or declutter this, but this is pretty hilarious. Also in the spy kit is a handy dandy notebook with pink paper in it. And this is fascinating. I went around the neighborhood and I wrote down everyone's license plates. Everyone's license plate numbers are on these pieces of paper. I'm recycling that. And I might keep this 50-year-old notebook to do grocery lists on. All right, this is the go box in my spy kit. Oh, that this has some serious stuff in it. It has here a spy tablet, a tiny pair of binoculars for spying, a Pink Panther magnifying glass, a tiny little kit with thread and pencil and chalk in it. Oh my heavens. Did I think I was gonna draw chalk lines around dead bodies with this? What on earth was I thinking when I was 7? Yeah, and then, oh yeah, this was like a little wallet thing for me to show my ID. Yeah, Dara Rabe, private investigator. Oh wow, okay, this is a priceless discovery. This is my napkin collection. I collected napkins from like birthday parties and things. So apparently I went to someone's birthday party and I got this Lucy and Snoopy napkin. And then baby shower. Oh yeah, we got some avocado green. Our kitchens were this avocado green back in the 70s. And here we have a Thanksgiving napkin, a Halloween napkin. Oh my goodness. This is from a drive-up restaurant called Dog and Suds, where car hops came to your car and gave you big frosty mugs of root beer and hot dogs. This is literally around 50 years old. Crazy. All right, I am not keeping this napkin collection. I am now a minimalist who does not need my napkin collection from a million years ago. I have found my sketch pad. This is full of pretty horrible kind of fashion drawings. So I might save a couple of these just for a laugh, but I'm not saving this whole notebook. Oh, these are some stories I wrote. This story is called The Circus is Coming to Town, and other stories. Apparently I wrote an anthology of short stories. Oh, here's a recipe. I don't know why, but it says top secret recipe. It's for cinnamon toast, and it's Jill's recipe. So I think this is my friend Jill Taylor. I will have to send a photo of this on Facebook Messenger. These are the papers I wrote in college. I did not write many term papers in college. I was an engineering student, and so I didn't have to write a lot of term papers, but apparently I had to write a few, and here they all are. I might keep one or two of these, but I'm definitely not keeping all of these. This is a term paper I wrote about MTV. MTV was brand new. The impact of music television, MTV. I wrote that for a communications class. I'm definitely saving that. This is a picture of my friends Rich and Kristen, my study buddies in college. We used to make buttons to cheer us up during finals week. It was like our show of solidarity and cheerfulness. So here's one of the buttons we made of us studying physics. Okay, this is a little bit cute. These are from 1977 and 78, and they are my chore charts, where I wrote down all the things I was supposed to do in the day, from saying my prayers, brushing my teeth, setting the table, playing my French horn, doing my homework, setting my alarm for the next day, reading scriptures, making my bed, and taking my vitamins. And I checked off each item each day as I did it. Structured, methodical, Virgo. Okay, this is interesting. And this big fat manila envelope were tons of these. Let me explain. My dad in our kitchen had this contraption where you put in a roll of paper, kind of like a cash register receipt, except it was a notepad. And rather than having little individual pieces of note paper, you would write and then advance the paper so you could take these really long notes. And Dad loved doing this. So apparently, when I would call home and talk to my folks about what was going on in my life, my dad would take notes. So he's like this court stenographer. And so there's just pages and pages and pages of all these things that were going on in my life for years and years. I'm throwing away all of these notes, except I'm keeping this one. This is the one where I talked to my parents after my first date with Ian. And my dad wrote down all the details that I shared with him. And it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny what I told him and what he wrote down. So I will definitely be saving this and showing this to Ian when he gets home. So I think this is a good grand finale for my 30th day of decluttering, is getting rid of hundreds of pieces of paper and just saving a tiny little box of the very most important mementos from my childhood. Thanks so much for joining me on this decluttering and minimalism journey this past month. As a reminder, if you haven't seen the first 3 episodes, please do. And also stick around, subscribe to Magenta Otter Travels, and join all the Magenta Otter fun as we talk about Britain. Thanks so much for watching, and do something good in the world today.